Hello everybody, this is Age of StarCraft once again bringing you a video commentary for my YouTube channel, and today as you can see I am bringing you another one of my bringing the basics videos for this series, and it is the Terran basics today. So I'm only going to be focusing on the Terran base, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the production tab open here, and I'm only trying to do my best to show you the counters for minerals, gas, and supply for the Terran player so that you can see at what time everything goes and everything is being produced. Now let me pause here for a real quick second. I just want to give you guys a disclaimer. The reason you guys, if you notice on my channel carefully, I don't have any specific build orders or this is how to counter X-ray or this is how to counter that. And that is because StarCraft is a constantly evolving game, and what is metagame right now, what that means is basically what people are doing right now might not be what they're doing 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So if you are watching my videos, you will see that I give you mostly pointers and guides as to what to do generally in situations, but this is going to be the only time you will see me you will hear me say do this build or practice this build order or follow this specific build order. And when I say that, what I really mean is that if you are a newer player and if you are having trouble with a specific race, or if you want to try out one of the other races, these build orders that I am showing you are very generic, safe, standard build orders that usually get the job done, especially if you're a lower player. So if you are not comfortable with your race or if you're still learning the game, this is what you want to perfect first before you start actually branching off into different build orders, into different types of builds or anything like that, doing specifically tailored to your own taste. So for example, just to give you an example of why this is important, is because for example we have the 4-gate build, and there are a lot of different iterations of what a 4-gate is. Some people think that a 4-gate is 4 gateways and then making units as fast as possible. Some people think it's 4 gateways and making units while making the 4 gates. Others think that it is 2 gates, then cybernetics core, then 2 other gates. Other people think it's a gateway, cybernetics core for warp gate, and then three other gateways while making units. And there are all these little iterations, variations of each build, of how many units you build, at what supply you put them down. They're usually specifically tailored to each player's way of playing. So whatever their taste is, whatever their preferences are, they're usually tailored and they'll work around with what they see, what they're scouting, what the opponent's doing, and things like that. So it's very, I can't tell you this build order will always work against this other build order. And for if you're a little confused as to what build order is, basically means that what supply you put down your buildings, you make units or anything like that. So when people say a 9 pylon, it usually means a 9 supply, you put down a pylon, and that's what those numbers means, and that's what a build order is. And like I said, you will never hear me say these build orders defeat these other build orders, because that is not true. That is not how StarCraft works, and people are constantly modifying and changing little things here and there. So you should never, once you start getting a grip of the generic basics of each race, you should definitely start experimenting with different things that work for you and that might not work for others. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on going here. As you can see, I've changed the speed to normal, just in case you're wondering. Excuse me for 1 second. Had a little bit of Chinese food earlier, so my stomach's feeling a little bit the effects. So I put the speed at normal, and I want to be able to talk of what's going on. So you're going to see me pausing quite a bit here and there. So I'm going to actually leave this pause for a second. The first thing you guys want to do starting off a game is you want to select your command center and you want to make an SCV. That's the very, very, very first thing you do. You want that to start as soon as possible. The next thing you want to do is you want to put your workers on the mineral line. Now, you can do what is called a worker split, which is basically you grab half or 2 of your workers and you individually micro them into separate patches. This was very important in StarCraft 1, where the AI would actually queue up on one single patch before splitting up, and it would put you so behind against players that did a split. But it is not as important in StarCraft 2. It is actually only gives you about 5 or 10 minerals, which can do a difference in like fast-paced games where there's early aggression, rushing cheese, or anything like that. But it is not the end of the world if you do not do a worker split. So if you're wondering what it was, that's what it was, and it is not necessary to do it, especially if you are starting out. If you're in the lower leagues, or even if you are in the higher leagues, it's not definitively necessary for you to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and here and just keep on playing this, and you want to keep making SCVs back to back for the first 5 or so minutes of the game. So my friend here just doing very, very standard things. Now, the first thing you want to focus as a Terran player is once you hit 10 supply, you want to be putting down a supply depot. So you will see here, he will grab an SCV any second now, and he will go ahead and put it at his entrance to make a wall. So look at this. He's going to make one more, he's put down the supply depot, and he's going to make one more SCV. So I'm going to pause here real quick. If you're a Terran player and you're starting, you always want to wall off. Now my friend does a kind of a more advanced wall off, or actually a riskier wall off, where he waits till some more of his buildings are down to put a complete wall. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but just so you know, for a Terran player, what a wall normally looks like, it's a supply depot on one side of the ramp, a barracks right here in the middle, and then another supply depot over here. If you're having trouble with rushes or anyone that is putting early pressure on you, you want to get that third supply depot down as fast as possible. Now, one thing is that when you do that, you're actually being cost efficient. I'm going to go ahead and keep this playing. You're going to be cost efficient because you're going to have extra supply that you're not really using. So you want your supply to be as close to max as possible before you put another supply depot down. That is not always the case. Sometimes when for example, if you put a reactor and you're going to have a lot of Marines coming out, you want to put them a little bit ahead of time. But for the most part, especially in the first game, you don't want to be wasting minerals on more than one supply depot. So there is no reason right now to put one more supply. Each supply depot gives you 9 supply. I'm actually a little unsure how much it is. It doesn't say anywhere. But it's 7 supply, sorry. 7 supply, yes. Or 8 supply? 8 supply, sorry. Like I said, it doesn't say anywhere. It used to say in StarCraft 1 how much supply was, and I don't play Terran, so I obviously do not really know. So there's 8 supply per supply depot, and you don't want to be making more than 1 at the beginning of the game. So we're gonna pause here again for another second. Now, if you notice, if we take a look over here, NASA has gone ahead and he has sent an SCV to scout. Now let's go back to this wall here. There are a couple things you can do here at this point, guys. Once the supply depot is down, you can either send this SCV to scout, or you can leave him here and just build a barracks, or you can do what he did and is you leave him here, put a barracks, and then grab a second SCV to scout. Now you can also just finish this barrack and scouting, but you normally want to do scouting as fast as possible. And yeah, he's taking a hit from that SCV who is up here just scouting, but you want to know if you're being rushed, you want to know if you're being cheesed, and you want to know what your opponent is up to, if he's doing some weird, crazy, fast carrier tech build or anything like that. So my friend, it's really up to you what you prefer. But my friend has gone ahead and done the supply depot, grabbing a second SCV, scouting, and then putting down the barracks once he had those 150 minerals. So you want to keep your minerals as low as possible, and he's going to continue SCV production here, as you can see. Now, one thing you can do is once you've got a single mineral, and we're going to pause here because SSV is going to go do something. Once you got a single SCV per mineral patch, one thing you can do is, or I do actually, is I re-rally my command center to the middle mineral patch so that the SCV split evenly as they come out. So just one thing to keep in mind, you should always do SCV first, split your minerals, and then rally your command center to your mineral line. Now we're gonna go ahead and see, and we're gonna continue here, and this is actually one of the safer builds so you can do as Terran. Again, with the little warning that I gave you earlier, is the 3 barracks build. So he's gone ahead, he's waited until half about this barracks is done, and he's putting another barracks down once he hits 150 minerals. He actually stopped SCV production for a little bit if you were keeping eyes on the production tab. So as you can see, he's going to stop a little bit because he wants to be able to put the 3rd barracks down as soon as possible. So with the same SCV, look at this barrack just finished, and he's going to be able to put down a 3rd barracks right here. And once that is done, he wants to make a couple SCVs more, but he wants to turn this command center into an orbital command as soon as possible, because that will give you access to mules, and mules will boost your mineral income a lot, and I will talk about mules once they come out. So looking at the scouting pattern, I just want to show you guys something real quick. Some players don't wall off. So as you can see, this probe is actually going all the way into the base, and that's because I had it rally there and because I want to see what my opponent is up to. But if you look at the scouting pattern, let's take a look at over here. This base has been scouted all the way to the Nexus. If you're one of the players that only scouts for over here and looks for buildings at the wall, at the ramp, you're doing a big mistake because some people don't wall off. And a perfect example of that is myself. So if you only scouted up to here and this was your first scout and you just went on and scout the other bases, first of all, you would freak out because you won't know where I am and you'll be wondering what just happened. There's a Protoss player and he has no bases. What's going on? Second thing is you're going to have to rescout every single base and you're going to have to go all the way in and waste a lot of time. And by that time, I might actually have an army. I might be blocking this ramp and you might not be able to see anything but a couple of zealots or a cannon in your face. So you want to make sure that when you are scouting, you scout deep within all the way to where the hatchery, command center, or nexus would be. You don't want to be just scouting up here for a while because some players do not wall, especially at the higher levels. So let's go ahead and continue here looking at my friend, and he is waiting for 100 minerals. Look at this. He's waiting for 150 minerals, and where did they go down? I'm sorry. Oh, he put a supply depot. So see, he's close to max supply here, 15 and 19. Sorry, I don't play Terran, so I got the order a little bit confused. But he's finished his wall. I'm gonna pause here real quick. He's finished his wall. Look at this. We're gonna shift the camera a little bit. There we go. He's got one supply depot here, one barracks, and another supply depot here. And this is actually a tight wall in, and nothing can really get in there unless he lowers his supply depots. That is one thing the Terran race has that other races don't have, is that their wall can actually be lowered. So if you click on a supply depot and you press the R key, I believe it is, you can actually lower the supply depot and it will let your units in and out as much as you want. And then when you're ready to close your wall, just press R again and it will raise it. And then well, obviously your units can't get out, but so neither can the opponents. Now, as you saw, once my friend Naza here at 150 minerals, he's gone ahead and done a command center. And like I said, you want to put this down as soon as possible because it will give you access to meals and scans. So normally, as a Terran playing, what you want to do is you want to summon a meal almost immediately after your command center is done. And we're gonna go ahead and finish that in a second. He's making one marine. You never want to have no units. He's made one marine already here to guarding for scouts or any early aggression. I can't break this down with one zealot, and one zealot will definitely die to one marine before he can break down this wall, especially if you are repairing it with SCVs. And that is one thing you never want to forget, that you can repair with SCVs. So at this point, he's gone ahead and put down a refinery, double refinery action. Look at this. Just as the orbital command came down, he summoned down a mule. Now mules gather 270 minerals per summon on a mineral patch, and they don't take up a space while mining. So it doesn't matter if an SCV is mining where a mule is mining, they're just gonna go continue doing that, and they're gonna stay out for about a minute, and they are going to mine 270 minerals. So you can actually slow down your SCV production later on in the game because you have those mules. And if we look at the resources tab, income tab, as you can see, my friend here is actually mining a little bit more than myself, and he's going to need that because he's going to be, look at this, he already has 3 marines coming here, and he's going to want to be putting down more supply depots faster, and he has 2 gas, and he wants to keep up the SCV production. So it is a lot of minerals that are going to be used up, and the mules are really what keep the economy for the Terran player going. So let's keep this game going. He wants to get the 25 gas so we can start putting down reactors, as you can see here. I'm sorry, tech labs. Tech lab here, and very likely a tech lab over here. I'm not too specifically sure what he's going to do, but again, this is one of the safer builds you can do as Terran. So you always want to be making supply depots because you will so quickly run out of supply when you're doing a build like this, especially once the Marauders start coming out, which is the unit he really wants to get. Those take 2 supply each, and I'm not sure why I probably killed his SCV or something like that at my base. That's probably why he's crying. Anyway, this orbital command has scan sweep, call down, and mule. I'm gonna pause real quick, obviously. And scan, you can use this as a last resort if you have not scanned and you really need to know what your if you have not scouted, you really need to know what your opponent is doing. You can do a scanner sweep anywhere